Hello, this is Hugh McTavish, PhD biochemist and immunologist, author of COVID Lockdown Insanity, and executive director of covidsanity.org. I had a very, frankly, traumatic experience this Sunday. I went to my church. I'm an Episcopalian. I went to an Episcopal church, happened to be the parish I was married in, and the parish that I used to serve on the vestry on, but I had not been there in some time. I thought that they did not require masks anymore. So I went to this church, sat down, not wearing a mask. I was the only one not wearing a mask. Immediately after the sermon, in which the preacher gave a wonderful sermon, saying that we needed to stop hating each other, anti-maskers and maskers, anti-vaxxers and vaxxers hating each other. Immediately after that wonderful sermon, the usher approached me and handed me a mask and said, "Please wear this mask, sir." I said, "No." He said, "Then I need you to leave the church." So I was ejected from the church. I was asked to leave the church. I refused at that point. I was asked to leave the church because I refused to wear a mask. Immediately after this sermon that said, let's just love one another and stop disagreeing about the masks. I refused to leave. A second usher then came up to me and who I happen to know, we served together on the vestry, and he asked me to come out and to show me something. So I went along with that, and I left the church, and he showed me a sign they had on the door that I had not noticed before that said masks are required, not recommended, but required by this parish. I explained that I refused to wear the masks because of not because I'm an asshole and trying to be disagreeable. I refuse to wear the masks on moral principles, because I want to stand up for the people whose lives we've decided are expendable, the people we decided to throw into depression, the people we decided to drive to suicide, the people we decided to drive to drug addiction and drug overdose deaths and alcoholism and alcohol deaths. There is absolutely no question that the lockdowns have killed more people than they saved. We drove people to depression. We drove 1 in 5 Americans to depression with the lockdown policies. And we drove a huge number of people to suicide and drug overdose deaths. The CDC even acknowledges the lockdowns caused 0.4 years of life lost in 2020. In 2020 alone, that almost entirely due to deaths of despair, suicides and drug overdose deaths, and also the increased murders that we decided to inflict on ourselves also. Those things were entirely predictable by the lockdown policy when you isolate people from one another. And the masks are just as bad. The masks are kind of the key to the lockdown policy, to isolating us from one another, reminding us constantly that we're in some supposed crisis, so we all need to be depressed about this, and we can't show our faces to anybody else or talk to anybody else. So I morally object to that. Because I am determined to effing stand up for the people whose lives we decided were expendable. My church, where I was married in, where I served on the vestry, expelled me from the church for standing up for the downtrodden, for having the audacity to stand up for the downtrodden. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm trying to stand up for the downtrodden. And I was expelled from my church for that. This is a church that outside that has a sign that says all are welcome. Inside, immediately before the communion every week, the priest says all are welcome at God's table. Apparently not. All are welcome except for Hugh. All are welcome except for those who want to stand up for the people we decided to throw into depression, the people we decided to cause to commit suicide, the people we decided to drive to drug addiction, the people we decided their lives were expendable. Anybody who wants to stand up for those people, you can get out of this church. You're not welcome.